There are 46 exotics in Destiny 1 that have not made the jump into Destiny 2. These consist of 24 armor pieces and 22 weapons. Not counting class items, maybe I'll do a separate video for those. Today, we'll be taking a look at all of the exotic weapons left behind, examining their original traits, and updating them with the current Destiny 2 sandbox in mind. But before we get into it, here are some other ground rules you should know. Most of the Destiny 1 exotics only came with one major perk, with one or two exceptions to that rule, but I'll get to them in a second. In Destiny 2, every exotic has two major perks that are both permanently active on the weapon, one intrinsic and the other in one of the columns. Exotic weapons in Destiny 2 can also have catalysts to further improve their stats and sometimes add an additional perk or boost an already existing one. So in reimagining these Destiny 1 weapons, I gave each one an intrinsic, a column trait, and a catalyst to further boost the weapon while remaining as true to the original idea of the Destiny 1 playstyle or aesthetic that they promoted. And as an honest disclaimer, I did no research into other videos covering the same idea outside of revisiting the original exotics and their perks. Any ideas that mimic or are close to any other YouTubers are completely coincidental. Also, I am not a game dev. These perks and changes probably aren't balanced, even though I did my best to explain why and how they could be balanced. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's get into it. Boolean Gemini. This weapon had a bit of a soft spot for me when I reminisce about Destiny 1. To be honest, I'm not sure why. Maybe kid me was a fan of the sounds it made or the aesthetic. Whatever it was, I actually really liked this rifle against the common consensus telling me I shouldn't. The archetype as a scout was great in Destiny 1, but its stats and perks left it far behind most legendary scout rifles. So how do we update this workhorse scout rifle to fit a Destiny 2 sandbox? In Destiny 1, Gemini was a kinetic scout and came with two major perks to pick between. One way, bonus agility on precision kills, stacks up to 3 times. Or another, bonus armor on non-precision kills, stacks up to 3 times. Kind of meh perks even for Destiny 1 times, but the idea of this dual-purpose scout rifle is a cool one, giving buffs depending on where you hit your shots. So in updating this to Destiny 2 standards, I'm giving Gemini the following perks. Indecision. Precision kills grant amplified and bonus body shot damage. Non-precision kills grant overshield and bonus precision damage. Bonus damage lasts until reload or weapon stow. Why not both? Precision hits grant reload speed, non-precision hits grant stability. Buffs last until reload or weapon stow. This keeps the idea of Gemini being a workhorse, all-in-one exotic where you have to make a choice on where to hit and kill based on what buff you want. For max benefit, you could alternate between precision and body kills, but that's what makes this weapon so unique is the choice factor. As a kinetic, this would also make Gemini a jack-of-all-trades exotic, being able to be slotted into an arc, void, or prismatic build on any class. To keep it balanced, the amplified and overshield buffs would only last a default time, while the damage and stat buff would last until reload. But while we're at it, let's give it a bit more juice by adding Reconstruction as its catalyst perk, allowing you to hold on to these buffs even longer. I think these updates to Gemini would transform it into a really interesting exotic. Tlaloc. Another one of my favorite weapons from Destiny 1, Tlaloc was an absolute joy to run around with, especially in PvP, where after your super is charged, you could output some crazy fast kills. It was super smooth and fun to shoot at the cost of your super. So how do we update this exotic to play in a Destiny 2 sandbox? In Destiny 1, Tlaloc was a kinetic scout rifle and came with the perk Overflow. This weapon has better handling, rate of fire, and stability while the wielder's super is charged. The best part of that weapon perk was the rate of fire increase. It was so good because it kept the damage of a slower firing scout, but now firing much faster. Now this weapon on its own would actually fit nicely into the Destiny 2 sandbox, but I think we can give it a little more juice to make the weapon more unique. With that in mind, I'm letting Tlaloc keep its Destiny 1 perk as its new intrinsic, while updating the perk's name, removing its class exclusivity, and adding a new perk to help it out a bit. Flowing Light. This weapon has better handling, rate of fire, and stability when the wielder's super is charged. Energy Emitters. Kills with this weapon grant ability energy to your least charged ability. Bonus energy when your super is full. This gives Tlaloc a way to build into your abilities by granting ability energy to your emptiest ability, and almost acts as a pseudo Hallowfire Heart by granting more energy when Flowing Light is active. I believe this weapon would be alright balance-wise due to the perks being mostly super reliant. But I've also got a catalyst for this gun to help it out even more. For Tlaloc's catalyst, I'm giving it a new perk I'm calling Symbiosis. This weapon's damage type changes to match the damage type of your last used ability. Class abilities change the damage type to that of your equipped super. This allows for even more build synergy for any class or subclass. I think this could be a really strong and versatile exotic, and one that players would have a ton of fun building into. Zhalo Supercell. easily in the running for one of the best exotic weapons from Destiny 1. This thing was so ahead of its time that, for years, it remained one of the only weapons in your primary slot that could be elemental. Overpowered is a word I would definitely use to describe this rifle. So how balanced would this weapon be if we brought it into Destiny 2? In Destiny 1, Supercell was an arc auto rifle with 2 permanent perks that made this weapon an absolute monster. Zhalo Supercell. Arc projectiles have the chance to chain lightning when enemies are close together, and bolts from the blue. Double kills with this weapon charge a small amount of super energy and return ammo to the magazine. So not only did Supercell clear rooms, it also gave you chunks of super energy back. This thing already sounds like a Destiny 2 gun. In fact, a lot would say that Supercell is just the predecessor to Destiny 2's Risk Runner. But just like Red Death and Crimson, you can't beat the OG. I would absolutely bring this thing back with some new perks to differentiate itself from Risk Runner, and here are my suggestions. Supercell. Shots against jolted targets deal additional damage and can chain the jolt damage 1 additional time. And bolts from the blue. Reloading this weapon after defeating a target overcharges this weapon for a short period of time, causing all of its shots to apply jolt. Shots against jolted targets have a chance to refund ammo to the mag. These perks would set it apart from so many Chain Lightning exotics, as the Supercell would actually jolt its targets, having a similar kill activation as Volt Shot. This allows it to synergize so much better than things like Risk Runner could. The Supercell perk allows Jolt to chain to one target as normal, but then jumps off that target and goes one farther, essentially doubling the jolt radius. In summary, I would turn this Destiny 1 exotic into the rightful king of spreading jolt. As fun as the super energy was, that wasn't the appeal of this weapon, so I opted to remove it to help balance it a little. That being said, I still wanted some kill activated perk in its catalyst to give it one more leg up. To do so, I gave it the perk Limitless Lightning. Kills while bolts from the blue is active refresh the jolt timer and increase how much ammo is returned to the mag on jolt hit. After all is said and done, I believe this auto would easily become a top choice for any arc or prismatic build. Maybe I went a little too hard on this one? Let me know if you think the Supercell update is a bit too much. Personally, I think with the right adjustments, this thing could be the king of Volt Shot, and rightfully so. Fabian Strategy. An auto rifle that I really wanted to be good, but it never lived up to its potential. Fabian had a really cool brutalist design and encouraged close quarter fighting, but in Destiny 1 it was overshadowed by several other exotics that just performed a little better in those environments. So how could we update this weapon to a Destiny 2 sandbox? In Destiny 1, Fabian was a kinetic auto rifle that came with the perk Front Lines. Increased handling, stability, and rate of fire when enemies are close. Kills automatically reload a portion of the mag. Again, a really cool idea that promotes a close quarter fighting style, and I love that shield on the front. So let's run with that shield, close quarter combat idea and update it for Destiny 2 play by first changing Fabian to a void auto rifle, removing its class exclusivity, and then giving it the following perks. Front Lines. This weapon generates a frontal shield over time when dealing void damage. Generates bonus shield energy when damage is dealt in close proximity. Thick-skinned. Frontal shield taunts combatants. Damage taken to frontal shields or overshields partially reloads the weapon and increases its handling, stability, and rate of fire. These new updates to its damage type and perks allow for Fabian to finally take advantage of its frontal shield. I took some inspiration from the Apex Legends character Gibraltar when designing this rework. It synergizes beautifully with Void and Prismatic subclasses, with this weapon basically being a souped up repulsor brace auto rifle with a frontal shield like the Juggernaut aspect. And for Fabian's Catalyst, let's lean into its new Void damage type even more by giving it destabilizing rounds, allowing for even better ad clear and more ways to synergize with it. The First Curse. The First Curse was an interesting idea for a hand cannon, but I remember being very disappointed that this heavy, unwieldy hand cannon was the Hunter exclusive. I did not care for this gun because it just felt bad, even if on paper it looked solid. So how do we update First Curse to a Destiny 2 sandbox? In Destiny 1, First Curse was a kinetic hand cannon that came with the perk, the First Curse. First precision kill of the magazine refills it, granting bonuses to range and stability until the player reloads. The perk is finicky to say the least. The First Curse suffered in Destiny 1 from some really poor handling and a terrible mag size at 8 shots. Even triple tap, which was included on this gun, couldn't help it. But the idea of the first precision kill is a good baseline to work off of, so let's update the First Curse for the Destiny 2 sandbox. First things first, let's remove the Hunter exclusivity for this weapon. Then I would give it a reworked The First Curse. The first precision kill of the magazine refills it and grants a damage bonus based on how early in the magazine the kill was made. Damage bonus lasts until reload. Continuous Curse. Landing 2 precision hits back to back will return 1 round to the magazine. While the First Curse is active, range and stability is increased. Basically, these perks turn the first curse into an opposite of Hawkmoon, where your mag's damage would be determined by how early on you get a kill in your magazine. This would give it some depth of play, as mid-gunfight you'd have to choose to reload and start your damage at the high end, or keep shooting and potentially get lower damage. A choice, if made in PvP, could be costly, as the TTKs are still around 1 second or lower. Most importantly, this would retain the idea of Destiny 1's first curse, but let's not stop there. For its catalyst, I would add a new perk to help its ad clear in PvE and lockdown in PvP. I'd call this perk Corrupting Glare. Precision kills drop a poisonous taken pool onto the ground beneath the target. The damage of the pool scales with first curse's damage buff. This would give the curse a bit more PvE viability and lock down reses in PvP, making it competitive with other exotic hand cannons like Ace of Spades, Thorn, and Hawkmoon. Dreg's Promise. A really unique, but a bit underappreciated Destiny 1 exotic, Dreg's Promise was, in my opinion, the precursor to the rocket frame sidearms of today. It was a burst sidearm with heavy tracking rounds identical to what the Fallen shoot at you. While it didn't do anything special in the PvE front, it did find some use in PvP for its tracking rounds. So how do we update this weapon for Destiny 2 standards? In Destiny 1, Dreg's Promise was an arc burst sidearm, and it came with the perk Shock Rounds. High ricochet shock rounds with enhanced target acquisition. Again, unique, but not potent, even for Destiny 1 standards. With special ammo sidearms being more common in Destiny 2, this is a great environment to reintroduce this exotic back with special ammo. I propose giving it the following perks. Shock Rounds. Special weapon burst sidearm with heavy damage shock rounds and enhanced target acquisition. Captain's Blade. Weapon and powered or glaive melee kills while this weapon is equipped grant 1 stack of bolt charge. Damage dealt by this weapon can trigger bolt charge lightning. These new perks would turn Dreg's Promise into the bolt charge exotic. Any kills with this weapon, powered melees, or glaive melees in your kinetic slot would grant stacks of bolt charge. This allows Dregs to be used on any subclass, but the synergies with Arc are obvious. The glaive melee might seem interesting at first, but I picture a pairing with a glaive as very natural for a Fallen weapon, as they frequently use pikes against you. Maybe a stretch, but I like the pairing nonetheless. But let's not stop there. Dregs needs a catalyst. And to bump it even more, I would give it the perk I'm calling Reese Reborn. Triggering bolt charge against an enemy with this weapon causes nearby targets to become jolted. This further allows Dregs to lean into being an ad clear sidearm and boost its perks up to 11. I think this exotic could be a great entry in the special weapon sidearm category, and personally, I love this exotic's glaive pairing. Invective. The Invective was honestly one of my favorite shotguns in Destiny 1 for both PvP and PvE. It hit hard, looked badass, and had amazing ammo economy to make for a truly fun experience back in Destiny 1. But what would a Destiny 2 version of Invective look like? In Destiny 1, Invective was a solar shotgun and came with the perk Invective. This weapon regenerates ammo over time. Now, in Destiny 2, regenerating ammo like that out of thin air is not something Bungie would put back into the game, and for good reason. So we'll have to redesign this shotgun from the ground up if we wanted to bring it back into Destiny 2, which is why I would give it the perks. Vilification. Kills with this weapon temporarily grant increased damage, stacks up to 3 times. Vitruperation. While Vilification is active, weapon kills have a chance to refund ammo and cure the user with an increasing chance per stack. Just because generating ammo from nothing isn't allowed much in Destiny 2, it doesn't mean we can't still lean into the original version of Invective's ammo restoration. Enter Vilification, which acts like Rampage but with better damage increases. Think Huckleberry Rampage rather than your standard Rampage. Every kill you get increases the chance of the second perk, Vitruperation, to proc, which can refund a shot and apply cure to you on kill. This turns Invective into the shotgun spam we like to see in both PvP and PvP, though legendary shotguns would still outclass its one-hit kill range. And for a catalyst, I say we give something simple but effective to go with the weapon's playstyle. Maybe something like Threat Remover, or go crazier with something like Chain Reaction or Incandescent. Let me know what you'd give this one for a catalyst, as I really couldn't land on one. Universal Remote. The Universal Remote returning to Destiny 2 would be an absolute treat for me, as this is the first exotic weapon that I ever received. I still remember sophomore year in high school when it dropped for me during a random PvP match. Little did I know the weapon was far from great. That being said, it was one of 2 weapons that used primary ammo in a special ammo frame, which made this shotgun and the No Land Beyond sniper rifle very unique. So how do we update this shotgun for use in Destiny 2? In Destiny 1, Universal Remote was a kinetic shotgun that took primary ammo, and came with the perk Universal Remote. Range and precision damage increases greatly while aiming down sights. Again, not a great perk, not a great gun. But the nostalgia for me is strong, so let's see what we can do to update this one for Destiny 2 standards. First things first, we are removing the primary ammo feature and making the shotgun a special ammo weapon. The ammo economy of Destiny 2 is leagues different, and I don't think PvP needs an infinite ammo shotgun. With that in mind, and trying to tie it into its namesake, I would give the universal remote the perks One-Stop Shop. Shotgun rounds with explosive shells. Rounds pierce anti-barrier, degen overloads, and stun unstops. Comprehensive capital. Stunning a champion or rapidly killing multiple targets with this weapon fully refunds the magazine. Increases rate of fire and damage until stow or reload. Okay, I know it might sound crazy, but hear me out. The remote in Destiny 2 can be a slow-firing monster with good range and explosive damage in both PvP and PvE that can, as the name suggests, universally stun all champ types. After stunning a champ or killing multiple targets back to back, the fire rate increases and this thing turns into John Wick's Dragon Breath shotgun until reload. This keeps it checked in PvP while allowing for a damn good time in PvE where this exotic would flourish. Oh, and for a catalyst, I recommend something like Threat Remover. So if you do land all of the rounds, you reap the benefits of increased reload, stability, and handling, something this monster shotgun could definitely use. No Land Beyond. Speaking of unique pseudo-primaries in Destiny 1, let's jump over to the No Land Beyond Sniper. A great looking and great feeling rifle that has one of the cooler aesthetics in the game. I know metal guns are cool, but come on Bungie. Give us some more wooden rifles? That aside, what could a Destiny 2 version of No Land Beyond look like? In Destiny 1, No Land Beyond was a kinetic sniper that took primary ammo, and came with the perk, the Master. Increased precision damage. Kills briefly increased damage against next target. Now this rifle wasn't anything special in the meta department, but it was unique in its look, feel, and shooting experience. So let's bring No Land Beyond back to Destiny 2, but update it to play better in today's sandbox. Firstly, we are making this rifle a special weapon. PvP doesn't need an infinite ammo sniper running around tapping heads. Then, keeping it as close to its Destiny 1 experience, I would give it the perks, the Master. Dealing precision damage increases precision damage, which stacks up to 3 times. Stacks disappear on a missed shot or stow. From the Watchtower. While the Master is active, gain increased target acquisition, accuracy, and stability, which stacks with the Master. These perks would keep No Land Beyond close to its Destiny 1 counterpart while also giving it a much needed lethality bump in PvE. This perk combination also keeps it checked in PvP. Think of this rifle having Precision Instrument on steroids, where each follow-up shot gets easier to land as you ramp up stacks of the Watchtower. Truly a feast or famine shooting experience where your accuracy can really determine your relationship with this updated sniper. For a catalyst, and to lean even more into its Destiny 1 counterpart, I would give this weapon a perk I would call Into the Wilds. Rapidly landing precision hits will return 1 round to the magazine. This weapon has max reserves. This would allow you to use No Land Beyond like a primary with maximum reserves and a version of triple tap to further reward accurate players. If anyone at Bungie is watching this, would love more wooden guns in Destiny soon. Hereafter. Hereafter was a sniper I always wanted to like, but never felt a strong urge to use. Its design is cool and I dig the changeable scope, but outside of that, Hereafter really doesn't bring much to the table. So how do we fix Hereafter for use in Destiny 2's sandbox? In Destiny 1, Hereafter was an arc sniper that came with the dual perks, the Hereafter. Crouching increases scope zoom and makes it easier to aim under fire. Blinding Light. Precision kills with this weapon cause a bright flash that can blind nearby enemies. While a zoom increase is cool and the blind effect is fun, both were outperformed by other exotics even by Destiny 1 standards. Also, a special weapon creating a blinding explosion is literally a fragment in the arc subclass of Destiny 2. So I'm proposing one of the more radical changes I've made to an exotic so far. For Hereafter's Destiny 2 version, we're going to take away the different zoom and change its element to Strand. After that, I would give it the perks Division. Killing a Strand debuff target or a Tangle with this weapon causes a large unraveling explosion. Conversion. Deal increased damage to unraveled targets. Shooting a Tangle refunds ammo from reserves. Changing Hereafter to Strand allows its new perks to really synergize with a ton of Strand and Prismatic builds that already exist in the game. This would allow Hereafter to become one of those guns that are just absolutely tied in with its subclass. And to let it shine even more for a catalyst, I would add Loose Change for that bump in reload speed, aim assist, and movement every time you unravel something with this weapon. Overall, these changes would turn Hereafter into a sniper I would absolutely use with my Strand kits. Patience and Time. Destiny 1 sure had a lot of really unique and cool snipers, and Patience and Time was one of the coolest looking ones of the bunch. I loved using this weapon in difficult encounters as a means to stay alive and out of danger. So how could we update this amazing playstyle into Destiny 2's sandbox? In Destiny 1, Patience in Time was an arc sniper that came with the perk Patience in Time. You gain active camouflage while aiming down the sights. Basically, the sniper made you go invisible while aiming. A really cool concept for Destiny 1, but falls flat in the faster pace of Destiny 2. But let's keep the invisibility theme of this weapon as we bring it into the new sandbox. With that in mind, the first thing we're going to do is change the Patience in Time to a Void Sniper. Then I'm opting to give it the perks Going Dark. Weapon kills grant invisibility. Weapon deals increased damage when breaking invisibility. Surprise ending. Weapon gains increased target acquisition, reload, and handling when invisible. Sticking true to the original theme of this weapon playing into invisibility, the updated Patience in Time now grants invis on kill, increases your damage when leaving invisibility, and while you're invisible grants you reload, handling, and acquisition to make the weapon feel even better as you dip in and out of sight. This weapon, similar to Buried Bloodline with Devour, would give Titans and Warlocks a way to build into invisibility without needing something like a finisher. And for Patience in Time's Catalyst, I've opted to make it even more of an ambush exotic by adding the perk I'm calling Weak Prey, which allows precision hits when breaking invisibility to weaken targets, further increasing its synergies and use cases. Zen Meteor. The last of the snipers on this list, and one that I think was looked over in Destiny 1, Zen Meteor was an ad-clear focused sniper that really didn't succeed in its job. Sure, it did alright, but it was unforgiving and primary weapons already filled that role. Plus, using that much special ammo in PvE just wasn't appealing, even for Destiny 1 days. So how do we fix it for Destiny 2 Sandbox? In Destiny 1, Zen Meteor was a solar sniper that came with the dual perks Dynamite, grants explosive rounds. Rapid kills with every round in the clip load an extra, higher damage round for 5 seconds, with a laser beam. The extra round from Dynamite causes a massive explosion. Great perks, but the weapon often felt clunky and slow. To really lean into that ad clear / explosion fantasy that I think Zen deserves, I've opted to give it much better stats in order to make the weapon feel better, and give it the reworked perks Dynamite. Grants explosive rounds that deal bonus non-precision damage. Kills load a high damage round at the end of the magazine, which stacks depending on the amount of kills made with the magazine, with a laser beam. The extra round causes an instant high damage ignition which scorches nearby targets based on the stacks of Dynamite. This weapon is basically the same as its Destiny 1 counterpart, but we've updated its stats to make it feel less bad to use, taken away the timer of the laser beam shot to make that more forgiving, and allowed it to ignite / scorch, which gives it play on solar and prismatic builds. This really allows the Meteor to lean into the explosive ad clear it wants to, but never quite achieved in Destiny 1, while also making it a choice between Still Hunt for big targets. To add to Zen Meteor's updated scorching explosions, I'm giving it the perk I call Every Time as a catalyst, which reads, missing a shot has a chance to return ammo directly to the magazine. Weapon hits against scorched targets cause the target to ignite. This really takes it up a notch and allows for even more chaining of scorch and ignitions as long as you have the ammo to sustain it, making Zen Meteor's update a powerful entry in the Solar Exotic roster of Destiny 2. Plan C. I don't know about you guys, but I loved Plan C in Destiny 1. A cool design and an even cooler perk that allowed me to surprise many a shotgun-wielding Guardian back in Destiny 1 PvP. Wasn't much in PvE, but still an amazing weapon nonetheless. So what would a Destiny 2 version of Plan C look like? In Destiny 1, Plan C was an arc fusion rifle that came with the perk Plan C. Charge and equip times are very short immediately after weapon swap. For those of you who only played Destiny 2, Plan C was the original parent of the backup plan perk that can be found on fusion rifles across Destiny 2, but I'd argue Plan C's version did it even better. That being said, Plan C is vastly outgunned in Destiny 2, with legendary fusion rifles coming with its perk. So in order to remain true to its Destiny 1 playstyle, I'm updating Plan C with the perks Plan C. Charge and equip times are very short immediately after swapping to this weapon, and deals increased damage to combatants for a short time after swap. Part of the plan. Kills with this weapon increase the damage and handling of your other weapons upon swapping to them. These updates would take Plan C's playstyle and up it to 11 by basically granting this weapon a form of reverse harmony, buffing other weapons to encourage a very swap-heavy playstyle that could work well with many different builds. To keep it balanced, up its Plan C damage against PvE targets while keeping the damage the same against Guardians. We don't need any more damage on this thing in PvP. And to boot, I'm giving it the catalyst I'm calling Out of Options. Final blows with this weapon reload stowed weapons. Final blows with other weapons while this weapon is stowed reload Plan C. This gives Plan C that last little ingredient it needs to become a swapping machine. Perfect for PvE and PvP, and just a fun gun to use in general. Pocket Infinity. The Pocket Infinity was an interesting exotic fusion from back in Destiny 1 that made waves in PvP when it first dropped, only to be nerfed by Bungie and never really climbed the meta ladder again after that point. Despite it bringing an amazing Warmind look to the table, it was never really a top option in Destiny 1 PvE to my knowledge. So what would Pocket Infinity look like if we updated the weapon to Destiny 2's sandbox? In Destiny 1, Pocket Infinity was a solar fusion rifle that came with the perk Pocket Infinity, fires in full auto mode, and has a chance to return rounds that miss to the magazine. Basically, once you started your fusion burst, it wouldn't stop its fire hose of solar damage. That being said, we do have Pocket Infinity at home in Destiny 2 in the form of the Merciless Fusion Rifle. So in bringing this weapon into Destiny 2's new sandbox, I've opted to lean into the weapon's Warmind aesthetic, and change this weapon into a kinetic fusion rifle, giving Destiny 2's Pocket Infinity the perks Warmind's Rebuke. Kills with this weapon drop a Warmind cell that periodically releases damaging pulses, with effects that support allies and harm targets based on the wielder's equipped super. Solar would Scorch and Cure, Void would suppress and overshield, Arc would blind and amplify, Stasis would slow and frost armor, and Strand would sever and woven mail. Warmind's Reprieve. Damaging a debuff target with this weapon reduces the cooldown of Warmind's Rebuke, and increases the weapon's damage for the following burst. Sorry, I know that was a lot, but hear me out. Warmind cells are in the game's code. They're already there. And what better way to revive a dead Warmind weapon than to return Warmind cells a little bit in Destiny 2. This allows the Pocket Infinity to be both a damage dealer and utility weapon for any build, with amazing synergy on any subclass. It wouldn't be a full return to Warmind cells, as Bungie is very clear about moving away from those entirely, but it would allow for a great support weapon in the kinetic slot for any subclass. This thing has so many build options, it could be its own video, but I'll stop after the catalyst, which would be Loose Change, allowing for quicker reloads after debuffing a target, which you should be doing all the time with this weapon anyways. Nemesis Star. Personally, I really enjoyed this Destiny 1 machine gun. It was unique, cool looking, and the rate of fire on trigger pull made tap firing to clear rooms of ads a dream. But how could we update this gun to the new Destiny 2 sandbox? In Destiny 1, Nemesis Star was a solar machine gun, and came with the dual perks Extinction Cycle. On trigger pull, this weapon's initial burst has a higher rate of fire, Strange Gravity. While holding down the trigger, range and accuracy increases as rate of fire decreases. Kills grant bonus grenade energy. Allowing for a rapid fire burst at the start of your trigger pull is a really cool and unique idea. That being said, a straight translation into Destiny 2 wouldn't go great. So let's give the Nemesis Star a bit of a facelift. Firstly, I would actually change this machine gun to the Strand element to prevent it from clashing with exotics like Xenophage and a couple of other updated Destiny 1 exotic machine guns on this list. Also, I think the Strand class could really use an exotic machine gun. Next, I would give Nemesis Star the updated perks Extinction Cycle. On trigger pull, this weapon's initial burst has a higher rate of fire. When holding down the trigger, damage, range, and accuracy increases as rate of fire decreases. Strange Entanglement. Killing a target marks another nearby target, connecting a thread between them. Damage against marked targets is increased and scales as you score marked kills. This update would transform Nemesis Star into an ad-clearing machine by means of a connect-the-dots minigame. This would really take advantage of the increased rate of fire on trigger pull, allowing you to quickly burst down target after target. Every target you'd kill would increase the damage against the next, and the chain would continue so long as there was enough targets in proximity, and you didn't run out of ammo. Which takes us to this weapon's catalyst. I would give it a perk I call Pull the Thread, which reads, weapon kills against marked targets reload this weapon from reserves. This allows the chaining of targets to really go on for as long as there are enemies to kill. Abaddon and Nova Mortis. As these are just mirror exotics, I'm going to be covering them at the same time. Sisters to the Thunderlord exotic machine gun, these two guns allowed for different elemental damage to their Destiny 1 sibling. That being said though, how could we update these sister exotics for use in Destiny 2's sandbox? In Destiny 1, Abaddon was a solar machine gun, and Nova Mortis was a void machine gun, and came with the perks Incendiary/negative rounds. This weapon fires faster and more accurately the longer the trigger is held. In Destiny 1, these were basically just carbon copies of Thunderlord, but in different elements. So for Destiny 2, we'll do the same, but with some minor tweaks. Firstly, it should be noted that both of these weapons also came with Feeding Frenzy, something we are keeping in the Destiny 2 versions. Next, we give them the perks Meteor Shower. Final blows with this weapon generate burning explosions, strong against unstopped champions. Call of the Void. Final blows with this weapon generate scatter grenade explosions, strong against anti-barrier champions. Incendiary rounds. This weapon fires faster and more accurately the longer the trigger is held. Continuous damage generates burning explosions. Negative rounds. This weapon fires faster and more accurately the longer the trigger is held. Continuous damage generates scatter grenade explosions. I don't think too much needs to be said here. With Thunderlord covering Overload champions, its sister exotics can cover other champion types and deal similar damage to Thunderlord in order to keep them balanced. The key difference would be their elements, and that can assist in certain burns and nightfalls and other activities as replacements for Thunderlord. We can even give them both the same catalyst as Thunderlord for allowing ammo to return to the mag on explosion procs. All in all, a very simple process to bring these sister exotics into Destiny 2. Super good advice. Another interesting exotic machine gun from Destiny 1, the Super Good Advice was a rapid-firing machine gun that had multiple sources of refunding ammo straight back into the magazine. To be honest, I only ever remember using this gun during the Vault of Glass for Oracle killing, but how could we adjust this weapon for use in Destiny 2? In Destiny 1, Super Good Advice was a solar machine gun that came with the perk Super Good Advice. Missed shots may be returned to the magazine. Landed shots may be replaced in the magazine from your reserves. Basically a rapid-fire machine gun with mulligan and something like triple tap, built for laying on the trigger. But I think when updating this weapon for Destiny 2, we can be a bit bolder. I propose for the Destiny 2 variant, we lower its rate of fire and give Super Good Advice the perks Super Good Advice. Missed shots have a chance to be returned to the magazine. Landed shots have a chance to be replaced in the magazine from your reserves. Overstated exaggeration. Allies hit with these rounds apply cure to the wielder and nearby allies. Landed shots on allies will be replaced in the magazine from your reserves. Rapid enemy precision hits apply cure to the wielder and nearby allies. This change turns the Super Good Advice from a mediocre round returning machine gun to a support exotic heavy, capable of keeping entire fire teams alive during tricky damage windows and firefights, at the cost of an exotic slot and some better damage options. For a catalyst, I would add 2 perks. Dynamic Sway Reduction, and Precision Instrument, with the idea that both incentivize you to lay on the trigger and be accurate with this rapid-fire machine gun during your fights. Young Wolf's Howl. A reminder of our Guardian's struggle against the Splicer House of Devils, this sword could have been better. Don't get me wrong, in Destiny 1 it was one of 4 swords that could be obtained and used in the game, and that alone made it special. But even still, I don't remember people using the sword all that much. So how can we improve its design when bringing it into Destiny 2? In Destiny 1, Young Wolf's Howl was a solar sword and came with the perk Howling Flames. Use Heavy to unleash a fiery solar eruption that weakens enemies and deals damage over time. Again, not a bad perk to be sure. I don't know why I don't remember seeing it more, but I think we can do better. My recommendations for bringing the sword into Destiny 2 is to first turn this exotic into the first Stasis exotic sword, then give it the perks Howling Flames. Heavy attacks unleash a solar eruption that deal bonus damage to frozen or slowed targets. Biting Ice. Powered sword hits slow targets. These updated perks essentially turn the Young Wolf's Howl into a sword version of Conditional Finality, where you can slow enemies with the light attack, and then deal bonus damage to them with the fiery heavy attack. This gives it a fun play loop, and the idea of wielding a flaming sword made of ice-cold steel is too cool to pass up. For a catalyst, I would give it an old sword perk, Shattering Blade, which would increase the damage of the sword if it completely uses its ammo, making the sword extremely competitive in DPS scenarios, and it kind of makes sense for the sword, shattering it against your opponents like ice shattering against stone. Raze-Lighter. The first of our 3 main exotic swords, the Raze-Lighter was a hard-hitting sword and really stood out as one of the best exotics in Destiny 1. You felt powerful using that uppercut against some poor Hive Knight who got too close to you. But how can we transfer and even potentially update that power fantasy in Destiny 2? In Destiny 1, Raze-Lighter was a solar sword and came with the perk Phoenix Uppercut. Use Heavy to launch into a solar light uppercut. Again, a really cool perk that did amazing damage and hit like a truck, but in Destiny 2 we have swords that can do the same thing. So in order to revive this beast of a sword the way it deserves, I propose we give it the perks Phoenix Uppercut. Heavy attacks launch a solar uppercut that applies cure to the wielder on hit and nearby allies on kill when fully charged. Melting Blade. Powered sword hits scorch targets. Heavy attacks apply more scorch. This returns the king to its rightful place as one of, if not the best, solar swords you could use. It brings with it amazing subclass synergy through Cure and Scorch, and is balanced by its lack of any damage dealing perks added to the weapon. Hopefully should keep it in line with other solar swords like the Lament. This sword would be a great addition to any solar or prismatic kit, and would be such a welcome addition to Destiny 2. Dark Drinker. One of my personal favorite weapons from Destiny 1, Dark Drinker really carved out a nice niche for itself, being one of the best options for damage during the Wrath of the Machine raid in Rise of Iron. But how can we update this exotic sword into Destiny 2's sandbox? In Destiny 1, Dark Drinker was a void sword that came with the perk Supermassive Vortex. Use heavy to unleash a spiral of void energy in all directions. This was a great perk that really aligned itself with the aesthetic of a black hole causing void sword. But in Destiny 2, we have legendary swords that can achieve the same thing. So I propose we give this infamous sword the perks Supermassive Vortex. Heavy attacks pull targets into a vortex. Empty Blade. Powered sword hits make targets volatile. These perks would make Dark Drinker the de facto sword to use when needing a void sword. For some added context, I envision the pull of the vortex to be similar to that of a Lorentz driver crit, pulling surrounding enemies into its death spin. As for Empty Blade, it would spread volatile and increase the damage of this already hard-hitting sword. For balance purposes, I think you could get away with putting that on a cooldown, but it's hard to say how strong something like that would be without a good frame of reference. This sword would be amazing to receive in Destiny 2, both for the look and the damage potential this updated blade could provide. Boltcaster. And last but certainly not least, Boltcaster was the oddball out of its sword siblings in Destiny 1. It never quite found a niche outside of maybe some PvP use, but paled in comparison to its siblings when it came to damage on big targets. So how can we update Boltcaster to bring it more on par with its Destiny 2 counterparts? In Destiny 1, Boltcaster was an arc sword and came with the perk Sword of Thunder. Use heavy to shoot a beam of arc light from your sword, creating a lingering electrical storm. A cool perk at the time, but Destiny 2 has several caster frame swords that are all good in their own ways. So how do we make Boltcaster stand out? I believe caster frames were always meant to be more flexible ad clears than their counterparts. So, with that in mind, I'd give Boltcaster the perks Sword of Thunder. Heavy attacks against jolted targets ricochet bolts towards 2 additional targets. Lightning Blade. Powered sword hits jolt targets. These updated perks would allow Boltcaster to synergize extremely well with Arc and Prismatic subclasses, with its heavy ranged attack now ricocheting its bolts to additional targets, so long as the target you hit is jolted, which should be always thanks to the Lightning Blade perk, causing jolt on hit. This would easily set Boltcaster apart as a great ad clearing sword under the right conditions, and dare I say, just a fun weapon to use overall. And that's it. That is every single Destiny 1 exotic weapon that is yet to be brought into Destiny 2, revamped for that Destiny 2 sandbox. What did you guys think of my proposed changes to these exotics? Are they too powerful? Maybe not enough? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And again guys, if you've made it this far, I really do appreciate you guys watching these videos through. If you have any ideas on content you'd like to see from me, or feedback on how I make my videos, please put it down in the comments below, as I really do read over all of them. But thanks again so much for watching guys, these videos were a ton of fun to put together, and I hope to see you in the next one.